What's up, everybody? Wow. So Nefas, I got a notification that Nefas made this video talking about, is ESO's overlay content a huge problem or is it too easy? And I'm like, we're going to go over this because, Nef, he's good at certain things and then a little whatever on others. And he, I don't know what to expect. I imagine he's going to say, well, veteran is, hard, but everything else is relatively easy, and it's not the player's fault, and I'm not wanting to sound like an elitist, but I'm really the gatekeeper of Elder Scrolls. No, he won't say that. No, he is. I don't want people to say I'm toxic and yet I regress or something. I don't fucking know. I'm just imagining that Neff just comes out with dumb shit because he has a bunch of morons who follow him, and his, there's always a justification for some shit. We'll get into it. Let's watch it. It'll be interesting. I'll pause accordingly. ESOU, I want to go to that
hey
school.
Hey everyone, it's time to Nefas and chill.
Nefas
Is Overland
and chill
too easy? The answer is yes. A very obvious yes. Now
well, and it's yes. Is Overland too easy? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's embarrassing, actually. So, kudos, Neff. You got one, man. Is it easy? Well, I've been doing this longer than you. I've probably been doing this since you was in diapers. And I have never played an MMO where any Overland boss was soloable. But, yeah. Is it too easy? That's a good indication. But, good observation. Let's continue.
Before I get attacked and labeled a toxic elitist or whatever is the term.
Before I get labeled toxic elitist, dude, you're not a toxic elitist. You're a fucking toxic gatekeeper.
These days for stating this obvious fact, I want to approach this from a few angles that I feel like hasn't really been touched upon or discussed widely within the ESO community. I do appreciate your thoughts as well, so let me know what you think down in the comments below.
Liar.
What renewed my interest in this topic was that the other week, my friends and I were talking about how difficult it was for newer players, or rather newer raiders, to simply transition from normal content to veteran.
Okay. I agree with Neff here. I do. The problem of it is, back in the day, there were no normal and veteran raids. There were trials. There were just trials, okay? There were no separation between the two at all. There was none. Zip. So, if you wanted to play a trial, well, there was only one level of difficulty. Get to know the mechanics or die. Now it's just like, we don't even do that. We'll see what Neff says.
Content. And even within the veteran content, how big of a difference the jump was from non-hard mode to hard mode, and so
I'll give that to you.
Then, I, with many others, saw Outcast tweet about Elden Ring and ESO, kind of, but not really comparing the two because, of course, such a comparison would be ludicrous. The premise of that ESO Hub article, Outcast, was...
okay. So first thing, let's get one thing straight. Elden Ring isn't an MMO. It's a host game. If I log into... That's why I didn't want to fuck with Elden Ring. It's a campaign game, right? You play the story, and then you can host, right? With friends and PvP and whatever. But it's not an MMO. If I log into Elden Ring, are there hundreds, 20, 30, 40 people just floating around? No. It's just like, hey, you want a PvP? Yeah, sure. You want to go do this? I mean, there's multiplayer function. Not saying there's not multiplayer function. But by standard, it isn't an MMO. So why would you even put the two in the same category. Why? Because they're both RPGs? Interesting.
Promoting was from one of his new writers. I believe his name is Andrew. That obviously millions and millions of players loved Elden Ring, despite its high difficulty in comparison to other games. So, could ESO also benefit from having a higher degree of difficulty as well within the overlay system? I am more than aware of what many people will say at this point in the video. ESO is not Dark Souls or Elden Ring, Nefas. ESO is meant to be enjoyed by any player of any level, Nefas. ESO is not at all geared towards a hardcore demographic, Nefas, and so on and so on, but that's all well and good, because I really don't like these false binary outcomes that we're often presented with.
Wait. What the fuck did he just say?
And so on and so on, but that's all well and good, because I really don't like these false binary outcomes.
Whoa, Neff! Wait a minute, Neff. You know what? You talk a fucking good game, and you talk a really fucking good game, but you're a lying motherfucker. When's the last time you tried to shake it up? You know? Get out of your comfort zone, so to speak, and try a Warden tank or a Sork tank, or when, Neff? When in a trial composition? When have you tried to shake it? Shut the fuck up, Neff. It's all well and good, and I'm not into these binary. Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up, Neff. Shut the fuck up, you fucking liar. Until I see it, I don't believe it. Nobody else buys your bullshit either. I promise you that. Let's continue.
Comes that we're often presented with by other players or even ZeniMax Online Studios developers themselves. Why is it that if one must consider raising difficulty, it has to be to such a degree that it's so hard it acts as a barrier and not content?
Okay.
Why must we equate difficulty to accessibility in the extremes, especially when ESO itself isn't entirely handicap accessible or friendly? In the same sense, why does harder content giving rewards equate to casual content not giving rewards? Or why would ZOS get rid of the Crown Store if they wanted to implement more in-game rewards?
Okay.
There seems to be barely any room for
he's
actual
got
rewards or player
a couple points.
But I digress because ESO overland content being too easy.
I always love when I digress. I have my own words too, so but you can once again I digress.
Actually introduces a few issues that the player base has and continues to struggle with in the following aspects.
Okay.
Social, immersion,
okay,
and gameplay. For the social aspect, when Craglorn was the first piece of content introduced post-launch back in the sub-to-play days, and even a while after that with vet ranks up until post-1 Tamriel, overland content was challenging. Overland content did...
Okay, you know what? I like to argue with Neff. I like, just fucking with him in as many ways as possible. But the man has a point. Just in that statement alone. At one time, when I think it was like VR 13, we got VR 14 as our eventually. And that was before Rubidite, right? And you'd have to go to Craglorn. You'd have to. I mean, even if you weren't a trial player, you had to go there just even for crafting, because the highest end crafting materials were only found in Craglorn. And you couldn't do it solo. You couldn't. There was this, like, the mobs would fucking slaughter your asses. Even in trying to get to a node to harvest, unless you were a rogue and could pick it up really quick and just run for your fucking life. So he has a point. He does. Right there, alone, Neff solidifies the point. And believe me, I don't like to agree with Neff. But I'm not going to argue against, what is. So, moving on.
Stop a fair amount of people from progressing, even in quests. So what this led to in player behavior was joining guilds or interacting with guilds or people to get help.
Okay, he's got a point.
When you make overlane content too easy, or at minimum make the player too strong too early in the game, what you get is naturally the single-player MMO experience.
Okay, yes, that is a problem. And it, but it's an illusion, because the problem of it is they haven't, when they actually made things more accessible, meaning, okay, here becomes my argument. It's not just Overland. Okay, one could argue, and Neff strikes points, and he's, saying, okay, if you make the player too powerful too early, it's a single-player MMO experience. That's really a contradiction of what you're trying to, because there's no immersion. So I kind of get where he's leading up to, because there's no social interactivity that needs to take place. Thus, all you get is players playing the same game without any interaction, thus being, kind of pointless. And I'll even extend that further, and I'll actually jump on this little bandwagon, I guess, of this portion, to say it's just not Overland. I've never been interested in trying to solo dungeons, but how many players do it? How many players can walk into any of the original dungeons and solo them? How many of the players can walk into certain vets and solo them? If a player can solo not just a world boss or all Overland content, how many players are even taking that a step further in moving it into vet dungeons, not regular, vet, and vet DLCs, and pulling it off? On top of it, I'll bet if you take 6 good players, right, you can cut your trial team by half and still be as effective. I'll bet. I will bet. Now, is there, a skill gap between some players? Absolutely. But Neff makes a point, but once again, I'm just saying he's only applying it to one standard when it applies to the entire fucking game. That's why I think Elder Scrolls was supposed to be my little getaway game. My, sure. Oh yeah, I'll make this Nightblade a healer. Oh, do this, I'll do that. And then it's this toxic piece of garbage, literally, that everybody clings to and defends. But, this shit's apparent, and then everybody all of a sudden wants to know, what's the problem? Okay.
That we keep getting marketed with by ESO. What you get naturally is an erosion of what a guild is, because let's be real, the ESO guild system is incredibly bare bones 8 years into the game's life compared to other guild systems and other MMOs. So socially, you have now less people interact, or at least the need to interact goes way down outside of organizing raids or player-sourced events. And some people will probably bring up the fact that Crackdown was unpopular.
I'm good.
But it wasn't because of the difficulty that was unpopular, but the terrible implementation of trying to force people to group together for story content. Like, you needed 2 or sometimes 3 to 4 other people to just open up a delve or an area of the game, which is why they revamped Crackdown later.
Win at work by communicating effectively. With Grammarly, meet Dylan, who's prepping for a big
on, but long after, too late, all of the Overlane content was nerfed. This results in the next aspect stemming from the social aspect, which is the gameplay, where a natural divide has occurred and continues to occur between the demographics of players. Now that Overlane content is nerfed in this scenario, where is the transition point between Overlane content to dungeons? How does Overlane content prepare the player for group content?
Okay, you might be wrong.
Does Overlane content intuitively teach and reward the player like many other games do? And this is the point here, I think, that Outcast writer Andrew brings up with Elden Ring and ESO. And objectively, from this vantage point, ESO does not do a good job of helping players transition at a lot of levels of the game. So the transition points between Overland and everything else are so bad that you get these barriers of entry where arguably other people don't even need to actually gatekeep content.
Stop! Shut the fuck up! Shut the fuck up! Shut the fuck up! Shut the fuck. This is coming from a man who didn't understand at one time any class could play any role, made his channel by dogging me, reminder, and then the biggest hypocrite, then coming out later on with builds that I did years before, and then they adjust to me, and then still can't say Mystic figured out that, you know, Stam players were gonna use the Maelstrom staff, and you know we're gonna do this, and Basse's better on a Stam tune because they don't need that much magicka. Now they're dealing more damage. Who said it first? And then these motherfuckers push other content creators out, bully them, and are lying bitches. And here's the only difference of it is, I can say I antagonize people. I can say I can be an elite dick. But this motherfucker can't even admit that he's a gatekeeper. There's no need to gatekeep. Shut the fuck up, you lying bitch. Moving forward.
People on ESO Reddit, ESO forums, even gaming journalists who are known to be extremely casual.
Oh, there he goes again. You know why? Why are they casual? Because they're extreme game journalists who are known to be extremely. There he goes. He's so fucking toxic. Shut the fuck up, Nev. Here's the thing. I love it when he's like, the toxic casual Mystic Raven. Motherfucker, I come back, I farm Maelstrom, not only on one platform, two. You motherfuckers were just like, oh, Mystic, whatever. I farmed that to get all my shit on PS and shit. And I hit leaderboards, and yo motherfuckers, then they're casual. They're fucking casual because your end game, they have to meet your standard or they're casual. Shut the fuck up. These guys, you know what they do for a living? Play multiple games, report on it. If anything, I would say that's less than casual. They're just very much more, you know, into other things than one game. God, fuck Neff. Get a fucking clue. God, you are so fucking young and dumb.
Incredibly easy Overland content in ESO.
Okay.
This brings me to my last point, which is immersion. At this point, some people probably think I'm an asshole elitist who wants everything to be hard or something.
Nah.
No. What I'm saying, however, is that I am one of the many, many, many people playing ESO, regardless of experience level, that want to be immersed in questing and the story that devs make every year, every patch. Okay. But it's so hard for me and so many others to do that. Like, I recently finished both Elder quest lines, Greymoor, Markarth, Blackwood, and the Deadlands, and I just could not bring myself to fully immerse into the stories. Like, the writing for some of the content is phenomenal, in my opinion. Like Markarth, or the Deadlands, or Murkmire, or Orsinium, right? But when it comes to immersion with gameplay, how can I take it seriously? I literally slap Mirun's Dagon's forehead with like 2 skills or light attacks, and he goes down the phase. I one-shot Molong freaking Ball. I kill these intermittent quest bosses that the story drums up in like one rotation. I'm just like...
Now, I do think he makes a point. Because for me, the storyline is a side venture. It's not something I feel like I need to do. You know, here's my opinion. Do I need the extra skill points? The lore is what I chase after. I like the Easter eggs because I'm an Elder Scrolls fan. But I agree. I actually do agree with him here. You know, if you want to feel immersed in a storyline, you want not necessarily a high-end difficulty, but you want a challenge of some sort to give you the feeling of, you know, the danger that that's being presented, the obstacles that lay before you. And I kind of understand and exactly agree with Neff on this one. So see, it's not always bad. I'm not always out for him.
Okay. Well, alright, cool. I mean, the immersion is so ruined. I sometimes don't even feel the story. Like, maybe I'm crazy for feeling this, but I don't think I'm the only one. I mean, like, look at my face in this video while I'm questing. This is not the face of someone who is excited, but...
Nef, that's your face all the time. You have to force an expression. Watch your videos. I'm not lying. Move forward.
By the game's attempt to drum up tension or excitement for the player. So yeah, all what I said is basically why I think ESO's Overland content needs to be reviewed by the developers again. I'm not saying make it so difficult to the point that's Elden Ring or whatever game you want to name. I realize and understand and want people to enjoy the stories. But I think ESO can do a much better job of overland balancing in conjunction with immersive gameplay without going to either the casual or hardcore extreme. And I think just like with my earlier points of nuance earlier, I don't think ESO needs to have this identity crisis between choosing to be an MMO and a single-player story experience. I think even that balance can be achieved. Some people at this point, I think, will bring up, this often brought up solution of maybe we could do separate, normal, quote-unquote, and veteran instances of Overland. And guys, that'd be great. But
I don't think.
Given that the game's performance is at stake, literally almost every quarterly patch, I don't see how the technical difficulties of...
Okay, so I think we're going to wrap it up here. Performance is an issue, and raising a difficulty isn't going to be a contributing factor. I agree with Nefas on many, many things, actually. It does hinder the, function of a guild, or even social elements, that MMOs traditionally present. And I do agree with them on that. I feel like a lot of the points that he makes has relevance because most people, myself included, like, I never wanted to go back to ESO. It's like, I gave everybody a choice. Everybody's like, go back to ESO because I'm known for playing ESO. But the problem of it is the community is very toxic and unnecessarily toxic. It's an open-ended game. And what the devs have done with the hybridization is really cool, and I think it's going to continue to get better. It does have that Elder Scrolls feel to it, and of course, players are going to keep chasing, their ideology to say this is the best in slot or this is the primary setup or whatever. But my standard has always been, if you can get through the content, what else matters? And you got to keep things in perspective, right? At what capacity you're playing content. And therein lies the problem with Elder Scrolls, because nobody gets a feel for what, until you get to vet, and I agree with Neff on this, it's not until you get to a vet level that you understand that class in that role or your composition. This is where I do give Neff the credit that he deserves, because there's one good thing that he does. He understands mechanics and composition to achieve that goal. But at the same time, Neff gatekeeps and then makes suggestive, recommendations that once again pit classes against each other for said role, because it doesn't work in the dynamics, when in reality all you have to do is rearrange the dynamics to get the said effect. So, the biggest thing about this is, I think, once again, who am I to talk to about, you can't talk about Nefas like that? I mean, I'm giving him credit. I am giving him credit. Oh my god, the toxic casual is like speaking! He can't be taken serious! Yet I did it before him. I did it before all of these jokesters, man. Warden Healer, Neff? Really? Stamina Warden Healer, where did that come from?
out of your ass? Well, you know, timestamps matter. Duh. But I honestly agree with him on a lot of points, actually. I think the game could definitely not need to be that much more difficult. But he's right. There's a lack of immersion. He's right. There's a lack of, you know, guild interaction because there's not needed. When players can not only solo Overland, but solo vet dungeons at any capacity, you have a serious problem. Now, once again, I think depending on the arenas, and I've said this before, the game has challenges. Like when you go out into arena, veteran train can be a nice little challenge for majority of the player base. And I've always said my channel was always designed for accessibility. You know, understanding that there are skill gaps, right? But making players have capability to be able to play said content in that role. That was what my channel was designed to do. And then, we're not elitist, Mr. Graven don't know shit. Yet whatever. Anyway, we're not the fucking, there's no gatekeeping in this game. I mean, I could literally see gatekeeping on this man's forehead. I promise you. But, you know, it's not to say he's not skilled. It's not to say or to diminish his accomplishments. But it is what it is, you know. And I, myself, have been a toxic asshole in many games. And I can be. I'm not even denouncing that. But I try not to be. I try to be like, there's always room to grow. And the lack of progression in Elder Scrolls is another contributing factor besides difficulty. Because there is no form of linear progression. Because why? Because it's not a linear game. It's an open-ended game. The content that you take on is at your discretion. What motivates you to do that content is completely arbitrary in context to what you're trying. Like, okay, if basically, unless somebody tells you this weapon or this set is the best you can get, you're not motivated to do it. You have no desire to do something other than what somebody is, you know, telling you. And I think that's what takes the progression out of the game. Because the next patch, that set now is, you know, insignificant. Why? Because it was nerfed. It got balanced. This set's now the best. So replace it. And now you have frustration and, you know, a lot of division. And I agree with him. There is a lot of division in the game. However, you know, why did it get like that? Now, I haven't checked out the comments because I want to keep this video as pristine as possible. So when people see or whatever, you know, whatever. Anyhow, I think Neff makes a lot of good points. And I think he's been a positive and a negative influence on the community. And I think being, you know, I was young too. I think with age, I think with age comes experience and also comes wisdom. And I think in a few years, Neff will look back on these moments and be like, what the fuck was I thinking? It takes time. Anyways, peace out, guys.